Okay, so now I am going to talk about I don't think that life is intrinsically good. And this is what I mean. I think that it just is. And I'm going to take the example of water. I don't think that water is intrinsically good for the fact that you can use it for good or you can use it for evil. You can use water to save somebody's life, or you can use that same water to drown a person. So if you say, oh, water is good all the time under all circumstances, I would object to that because no, it depends on how you use it that would make it good or bad. So I think that those people that are pro-life are people that think that all life, under all circumstances, all the time, is sacred, valuable, important, and worth saving. I do not have that opinion. I do not believe that all life, all the time, under all circumstances is valuable. If you have a person that is a complete, vegetable that cannot move, and you have to do everything for that person, to me, that is not a life that is worth living. To me, in that situation, death is preferable to life. Just because somebody is alive and is breathing does not mean that that person has extreme value or something that we need to defend to the end. If you said that sex was good all the time under all circumstances, then rape or incest could not be considered wrong. I think that life is good when it is serving, for the most part, a positive purpose. And it is bad when it is serving a mostly negative purpose. Like I said, the fact that someone is breathing or alive should not be the only criteria to be taken into consideration. I think that this is where it might get a little bit tricky, because I might sound very harsh and cruel and cold, but I think that sometimes we need to see life or analyze life with our brain that was given to us and not just go by our emotions, because one thing is what our emotions would want, and another thing is reality. And sometimes they're in conflict, and you have to decide, okay, am I going to go with my head or am I going to go with my emotions? And I think that when it comes to things like this, yes, you can take your emotions into consideration, but I don't think that's the only thing you should take into consideration. Because I think that if you deny or ignore the negative factors in any situation, your actions will be off balance and therefore potentially negative and or harmful. Anytime you have to make an important decision, you need to consider both things. You don't just consider the positive and say, oh, you know what, I want to buy a house and I'm just going to look at all the good things it has, but I'm not going to look at all the negative things it has, because you know what, eventually they're going to come up and you're going to have to face the facts that all the negative factors that you didn't want to take into consideration in the beginning. I think that in any situation, it would be completely stupid and ridiculous to only consider one side, whether it's the positive or the negative. Because in a lot of situations, you might do the opposite. You might say, oh, I'm going to look at just all the negative and I'm not going to consider the positive. Then you're going to be off balance. To me, it's about weighing both sides. These are the positives, these are the negatives. Which one weighs more? And if you are somebody that thinks that life is precious and valuable under all circumstances, that is not going to allow you to have a balanced way of looking at things, and it's not going to help you make right choices, in my opinion. And that's why I go back to this thing, like, in my opinion, anyone who is anti-abortion is starting with the false premise. So if you start with the false or flawed premise, You cannot come to a logical, reasonable, or positive conclusion. So if you're thinking all life is valuable in all circumstances, under all situations, you're only wanting to focus on one thing, and you are denying the other side of the equation. Nothing in life just gives you one thing. You always have pros and cons. You're always weighing in the good and the bad and taking them into consideration in order to make the right choice. And it's not always going to be easy, and it's going to be very difficult sometimes, and you're going to have to make difficult and hard choices, and choices that you wish you wouldn't have to make, but you still have to make. And being in denial is not going to solve the problem. So the way I see it is, does life have positive potential? Yes. Does life have negative or harmful potential? Yes. Therefore, you need to consider both. Abortions are not going to stop just because you make it illegal. Throughout history and now in the present time, abortions are happening all around the world, whether they're legal or illegal. It's not going to stop. It doesn't matter how much you wish it wasn't happening. You wishing that it weren't happening and trying to stop it, it's not going to stop it. And you need to understand that. And to me, instead of trying to stop people and to make it illegal and to putting women in prison for doing this, something that they will continue to do, instead of spending that energy and that time and that effort in trying to make these procedures more safe for women, to me, that is caring about women. That is caring about people. That is having compassion and say, you know what? I don't like this. I don't agree with it. In a perfect world, this wouldn't be happening. However, because it is happening, and because I do care about at least, the women that are still going to go ahead and do this, I want to make it as safe as possible for them, so that instead of having one death, the death of the fetus, you're having now 2 deaths. You're harming more people by trying to stop it, because these women are going ahead and they're going to go ahead and either do the procedures themselves and end up bleeding to death, or they're going to commit suicide and they're going to leave children behind because they did this, because they know, if I knew that if I lived in a place where I got pregnant, and let's say I already had 2, 3 kids, or 5 or 7, and I ended up pregnant again, and I knew that if I had that abortion, I was going to end up in prison for 30 years or whatever, this ridiculous law that they have, I would rather die than bring another child into this world. I would rather commit suicide than have my children see me go to jail and me being in prison for 30 years. I would rather die. So my question is that blood, the blood of those 2 lives, going to be on your hands? Are they going to be on your conscience if you have one? You say you do. And is that what you're going to prefer? You think that that is compassion. You think that that is kindness. You think that that is being pro-life. I think that many people that call themselves pro-life, they want to impose their opinions and their beliefs on somebody else. They want to infringe on somebody else's rights. But any time that you are sharing a right with somebody, you are also sharing the responsibility and the consequences of those actions. You cannot just say, oh, I have the right to tell you what to do and to force you to do something that I want, or stop you from doing something that I don't want you to do, and then not participate or be part of the consequences or be responsible for the result of that action. That, to me, is the most irresponsible thing to do. If you want a right, you're also going to have a responsibility. So if you're going to tell a woman, you know what, you can't have an abortion, and if that woman decides to kill herself, you're also and children are going to be left without a mother because you tried to stop her, or because you were going to imprison her for doing that, then you're going to share the responsibility also. You can't just say, I'm going to tell you what to do, and then just walk away and like, you're not going to have blood in your hands. You're going to have freaking blood in your hands, and you're going to have to deal with that. Okay, so I'm going to have to go to video 3 because this is going to be too long. I do have a lot to say. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video.